or risk of failure is in any aspect of life. So why not pursue something you're passionate about? Finding a higher purpose, that came from pursuing the vision in my mind that I would create at a young age, from seeing other people doing something that I love to do and the level I can take it. And what I think you should focus on is getting really clear on that vision you're working towards. Don't focus on what you don't want to happen. And that's the equation of success. It starts within and then it transcends outward. To create change, to create success comes from the power of believing that you are more than your circumstances and you are defined by the vision you're working towards in your mind. Catch your thoughts and emotions and behavior, write them down, and then go, what do I want? What outcome do I want from my reality? And then go back to, how can I think differently than now?
Great. So Josh, welcome. We have been talking about recording this episode for many months now, and I am glad we could finally get it done. And well, thank you again for coming. So I usually like to begin my podcasts with an introduction to the guest, but I like different introductions than the usual ones. And the introductions that I like are through stories. And I would like you to introduce yourself by telling us the story of how you became a BMX rider, and yeah, like the journey from the beginning until your first head injury riding.
Yeah, so I grew up like most kids playing school sports, from 4 or 5 years old, and kept going, and then got into action sports like skateboarding and rollerblading when I was about 11 or 12, and then 13, I got a BMX bike for Christmas one year, and that slowly took over to where I wasn't playing other sports, and I was just going to school, working, and riding, and it just became a way of life for me. And then, I mean, the first head injury, I mean, I don't even remember. I was a teenager when I, hit my head for the first time riding. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're getting to is the head injury that revealed that I had a massive brain tumor. And that was when I
Yeah.
was 21 years old. And that was right after riding X Games, second or third year competing on the Do Action Sports Tour, which is no longer around for BMX at least, and won my first pro contest and started establishing sponsors, traveling around the world. And it was just a regular day training, trying a new trick for the first time, and it just went wrong, and I, got a concussion and had to get an MRI, and that's when they found the mass taking over a good portion of the left side of my brain, and that's kind of where the journey began with discovering,
Mm-hmm.
who I am internally, how that's creating my external reality, and how to audit the different aspects of my life so that way I can improve or optimize them to be the best version of myself. And here we are today.
Mm-hmm. And before this experience, how was the process growing up and growing into a BMX bike rider? And I know you were highly supported by your parents, and that's something I like and resonate with, because my parents support me too a lot with my projects. And I would like you to talk a little bit more about that, about how was the experience with them growing up and developing your career.
So growing up, my parents were super supportive of anything I put my mind to, especially when it came to sports. And, as I got older, working and just teaching me the value of hard work and hard work paying off for the later run, delayed gratification type concepts. You work hard for the life you want, and over time you stay consistent and it'll happen. And so with that, when I decided to do anything, they were always supporting me as long as they saw the effort I put into it, the energy I put into it, and how much I enjoyed it. And so when BMX came about, it was, just just like anything else. They saw the passion, they saw the drive. And yeah, sorry, my dog is
Yeah.
deciding to scratch himself. He just woke up from
No
a nap.
problem, no problem.
But they saw all the drive, the focus, the effort, the energy I was putting into it, the energy I was putting into my schoolwork and working my job, so that way I could, go ride and travel and compete. So yeah, I mean, they were fully supportive of it. I mean, obviously the risk factor is there, but my mom and my dad knew, that risk of injury or risk of failure is in any aspect of life. So why not pursue something you're passionate about? And so with the support of my parents, driving me around, fixing my bike, giving me chores to earn money to be able to buy parts. And then, as I got older, I started working and paying for my own parts and stuff like that. yeah, they were always supportive, just like anything. They just, as long as you're going to put all of your effort and energy and focus into something, we know you'll be successful at that. And I show them that through my schoolwork, through working a job while going to school, being a teenager and competing, and then just seeing the level of progression, and then how much that was doing for me, keeping me out of trouble, especially as I got older and was getting a license. And some of my friends were not riding as much and, going to parties and things like that. There was just so many aspects of it that they saw valuable from me and wanting to see me succeed in it. So it was just yeah, no brainer for them to support me. And I'm really thankful for it, because everything they taught me allowed me to express myself in that sport and go where I've been able to go with it. And had it not been for their support, I don't know if it would have been as easy or been as effective in how I approached it. So yeah, I mean, the process was it was great because I had the support of my parents when a lot of other people doubted me. Teachers especially were not in favor for me missing school or doing the bare minimum when it came to homework and things like that. But I got passing grades, and all I wanted to do was to ride my bike and make a career out of it. So my parents supported me, and I was able to do it.
There are a few things I want to unpack here, and I have three things I want to say. So two are questions, and one is something I want to tell you about, because I also want advice for that situation, and I will get into that briefly. But my first two questions are like, was there any stage in which your parents sort of doubted you, or were not like fully convinced of you following your path as a BMX bike rider? And that's like the first part, the first question. And the other, how did you decide that BMX was what you want from a very young age? What was it from the sport that attracted you?
So my mom was always all in. Anything I did, she was always fully supportive. My dad, for the first couple of years, was always telling me, "Yeah, it's great. Keep doing your thing, but it's always asking me, do you have a plan B? Do you have a fallback plan? Like, do you have something lined up? Because you can't do this forever." And then around my mid-20s, he stopped telling me that. And then I remember we had a conversation where he's like, you always seem to figure things out, things work out, and it comes from your focus, your work ethic, and I'm gonna stop saying that, essentially. And so he stopped telling me I have a plan B. And yeah, so I mean that was fortunate for me, because I know that's not the situation for a lot of people, especially when it comes to an unconventional route that society tells us is risky, it's not worth it, and it won't lead to success. I've learned that that's other people's projections, and if we take that at face value rather than asking why are they saying that, where did that come from, did they do what they wanted in their lives, we're not going to have clarity around it. We're just going to take it, and that becomes what we believe ultimately. So yeah, I mean, my mom always on board, my dad always on board, with the addition of like, yeah, do you have a plan B? Let's make sure you're protected if this plan doesn't work out. And then later on, he just kind of dropped that, and then fully supported me without the fear of like a plan B. So what was the second question?
Yeah, what was it from the sport? What was it from?
Yeah, what was interesting about BMX? Yeah, there was just so many aspects about BMX that appealed to me, and what ultimately inspired me was seeing people doing something that I wanted to do, but doing something more than I believed that you could do, which was make a living out of riding your bike, make a living out of doing something you love. Because today, more so than even years ago, I feel like the common narrative is, it pays the bills. I go to work because it pays the bills, but I don't love it. Most people don't even enjoy what they do, and a lot of people hate what they do, but it pays the bills. And that's something that our society has like conditioned us to believe, is like, you don't enjoy what you do, you just do it because it's going to earn you money so you can pay for your lifestyle, and then you can keep climbing the ladder, but you still don't enjoy what you do. And I think that that's why a lot of people are so sick and unhealthy and in pain and suffering, because they're living a life that they were told to do, suggested to do, forced to do by their parents or other people, or just they took what society and the common narrative of society, they took it and absorbed it, and it became their belief structure that I have to do this. I can't enjoy what I do to make money. That's just for fun. or for a hobby. But me seeing people like Dave Mira on TV and video games and competing and making a full-on living riding their bike and making more money than the average person that works a job that they don't enjoy, I was like, oh wow, like I don't even care if I can make a bunch of money, but if I can support myself from doing something I love, then that was what sold me on it. And I was 17 when I first started making money, paying my bills, riding my bike, doing something that I didn't see as a job. I just was like, wow, like I enjoy every day of my life and I enjoy what I'm doing and I'm being paid to do it and I'm being sent around the world to do it and share with other people and meeting people and having these experiences and learning about life and culture and the world that I only learned about in history class. But I don't think my teacher has been to Iraq, for example, or Saudi Arabia or India or Australia, like all these places I've been able to go because of my bike. That just what appealed to me. It was the fact that I can travel, I can make a living out of this, and I can just do what I love and see where that takes me. And ultimately, it took me to finding a higher purpose for my life, which is the work I do today with speaking and writing and coaching.
I really think that's very interesting. And the other thing which I wanted to talk about is that, well, I've got a friend who is a tennis player. He's my age. He's 16. He's just starting his career, but he's got some sponsorships already. And he left school this year so that he can like pursue that journey that inspires him. And I don't know, I just think that your journey and the journey that he's about to go into are like very similar. And I wanted to like bring his case into a conversation because well, he's already earning some money, and because of that his parents have like helped him and supported him a lot too. But I would like you like to give him indirectly some advice on like on the journey, what to focus on as a sportman, but also like beyond that, what's like more important, because as you say, you discover the higher purpose for yourself after pursuing the path of being a BMX bike rider. um yeah, I would just like you to talk about that for some minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so starting with the last piece about finding a higher purpose, that came from pursuing the vision in my mind that I would create at a young age, from seeing other people doing something that I love to do and the level I can take it. So when people ask, like, how do I find my purpose? How do I find a higher purpose? I don't have an exact answer other than like a surface level answer, which is, we hear it all the time today, especially, but it's like you have to pursue the things you're passionate about and the vision that you created in your mind for the life that you want to live. Because I never set out to find a higher purpose in my life. I didn't understand that concept. I was 17 years old, dropped out of high school, moved 14 hours away from my family to pursue a dream of mine, a vision I created in my mind. And along that route, there was a ton of learning opportunities, a lot of adversity, a lot of challenges, and a lot of stress. And throughout those experiences, going back to your first part of the question, what I think you should focus on is getting really clear on that vision you're working towards. Don't focus on what you don't want to happen. Don't focus on what you don't enjoy about life. Focus on what you want to do, how you want to become as a human being, a personality, like the way you think, your emotional states, your behavior, your habits, your patterns, and find someone that you can model. I didn't know this at the time, but I'm aware of it now. What I was doing was I looked up to Dave Muir and Ryan Nyquist. Those like two of my favorite bike riders growing up. And I just observed them. They're going to contests. They're filming videos. They have sponsors helping them. They're doing all these things. They're riding their bike every day. So I just did that. I didn't know that was going to work or not, but I had this vision of what I wanted. I had people I could model of what they were doing to be successful, and I applied everything. Along the way, I started to learn. I started to learn about mindset. I started to learn about how I can audit my actions and how I'm showing up in the world, and how I can optimize who I am and how I show up to the world, so that way I can increase the odds of furthering that vision and progressing. So to give general advice, I would say get really clear on what it is you want your life to look like, the experiences you want to have, and then how can you act in a way today that's going to make tomorrow and the next day and the next day easier to create that life, increase the probability, because we know it's not just about the goals. It's not setting a goal. Like anyone can set a goal.
Mm-hmm.
The difference of someone setting a goal and someone accomplishing a goal is getting clear on what that goal is, getting clear on the path or the systems you have to create success, and then getting clear out, what that future looks like and just how you can be congruent with your behavior today to make the outcome that you want tomorrow higher of a probability. And a quote that I love that from CrossFit, Matt Fraser, he said, he's willing to do what most people won't do today so he can do what most people can't tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
or what most people won't. So it's something about like he's willing to do today what others won't, so that way he can experience what others won't tomorrow. Like just do the work today, even if you don't enjoy it. There's things that we have to do that we don't enjoy all the time to get to where we want to go. Most people won't do the hard things. They won't do the challenging things or face adversity because whatever reasons. But if you can get clear on what that vision that you're working towards is and do those things that most people won't today, you'll be able to experience what most won't tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. About the part of modeling someone you admire, or let's call them idols. I was recording a podcast last week with a friend, and he was saying that, like, for him the important part of mentors and of people you admire is to model skills that they have, so that then you can, like, follow a similar path, or one that inspires you, as you say. So for you, what's like the important part of modeling mentors, like the skills or their mindset or behaviors?
Well, when I look at skills, I look at mindset. I look at everything. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think of skill as just a physical skill. I don't look at like, a basketball player or a BMX rider or a musician or an artist or a speaker as like what they do, as in play basketball, ride a bike, or speak. I don't look at that as the only skill they have. I look at belief structures. What do they believe is possible for them in their lives? What do
Mm-hmm.
they believe about life? What do they believe about their reality? And then I look at thought processes, and then I look at habits, and then I look at, just how they show up, what they do, all of it. That to me is a skill, not just, the actions that they take. So for me, when I'm looking at someone like, my example being a child, young teenager, looking at
Mm-hmm.
Dave Muir, for example, it wasn't just, oh, he rides his bike. That's the skill. Get good at riding the bike. It was like, no, what are all the things that he's doing? He's riding every day. He's practicing tricks. He's repeating the tricks. He's forming habits. He's doing all this repetition to master that skill, which increases the mindset of belief. But ultimately, he has a goal, he has a vision. And that's where I talked about earlier. Like, that's so important, is to just get really clear on what you want to do, and then you just reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
And James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, he summarizes this very well. If you look at like, he refers to as a golden circle, same way Simon Sinek talks about the golden circle. The core is the why, the middle layer is the how, and then the outer layer is the what. Well, what James Clear breaks down is the same golden circle concept, but the middle is identity. The very core is identity. The middle layer is the systems and processes, and then the outer layer is the outcomes. So you
Mm-hmm.
start with the outcomes. Most of us start with like a goal, an
Yeah.
outcome. What do we want? Maybe some people go into how little can I do or change to get the most return on what I want. That's I feel like the most of society, like how they think is like, oh, like if I could just do a little bit, how much can I get? And James takes a step further. He's like, well, that's an incorrect way to look at it, because you have to be all in to get the maximum result.
Mm-hmm.
But go a layer deeper. How do you have to think on a daily basis? What are the emotions you need to feel on a daily basis? And what are the behaviors that you need to participate in? And that's the equation of success. It starts within, and then it transcends outward. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just what comes to mind.
Yeah, I think it does. So you begin by modeling stuff from within. Um, yeah, that is within people you admire, and from that, then you also start to model skills, which are more like about how to perform, or actions and habits, and more uh, visible stuff. then.
Yeah, I mean, now that I remember exactly how you put it, when it comes to modeling, when I was younger, and this is why I share more context, because when I was younger, I just saw what they were doing. They
Mhm.
were talented at BMX bike riding. Okay, that's what I want to do and become. But what are they doing even below the surface? They're training every day, they're filming videos, they're acquiring sponsors, and they're competing. So those were the things that I knew I had to do. Along the way, I wasn't aware of this, but that was installing belief structures in me, falling down and getting up and trying again because what you're working towards in your mind. It's not current yet. It's not happening. It's not reality, but you know it's possible. You just get up, try again. I didn't realize that mentality, that belief structure of like, you fall down, it's not the end of the world. It's not failure.
Mhm.
You learn, you optimize your systems, and then you try again. And over time, you'll have your outcome. I didn't know that. Now reflecting, I'm like, oh, I was just looking at the outcomes and going a little layer deeper into the middle of the systems, the processes, the habits, all that stuff. But I didn't realize till later on that was all building belief structures. Something as simple as when people get hurt, most people say, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again." Like that's just
Mhm.
not worth it. Or they fail at something once and then they get afraid to try it again for whatever fear of judgment or fear of failure again or the pain. It's just and what BMX taught me was delayed gratification in a painful way, mentally and physically. And it taught me the power of getting up and trying again. It taught me the power of vision, focusing on what I want rather than focusing on how much I failed or how I'm not as good as I want to be,
Mhm.
which is common for us to get wrapped up in the current moment. But I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Is where I first kind of started understanding this concept. Is like the power of change or the power of success, or how would I word it? To create change, to create success, comes from the power of believing that you are more than your circumstances and you are defined by the vision
Mhm.
you're working towards in your mind, which is easier said than done, especially when circumstances are painful, are scary, things like that. But it never fails. If you focus on what you want to be true about your life, and then you start going through, we talked about what are the systems I have to have set in place? What are the behaviors I have to do? And then going a layer deeper of who do I need to become now? What thought process do I need to have? Oh, I stubbed my toe. Is the thought process I want, oh, this day is going to suck because I started out with pain? Or do you want to create a different feedback loop? I hit my toe. What can I learn from this? Well, maybe I need to turn the
Mhm.
lights on before I get out of bed. Maybe I need to move that out of the place. Maybe I need to be more aware before I start walking or look around my surroundings. It's all these simple things that just create the equation of awareness and then building systems that are going to help you get to where you want to go in time. The more effort and energy and focus you put into it, the higher the probability increases to where you'll have your outcome. And with that, we can't control outcomes. We can't control things in life, but we know the probability of having that outcome increases the more we focus and put our energy and our actions behind it.
Yeah, I think I have heard Tony Robbins talk about how it's not about actually creating an outcome, but increasing the probabilities of that outcome happening. And something that I would add to what you have just said is that once I read in a book, I don't remember which book it was, but that you gotta believe in the result so that you can actually do the needed to, well, to influence it to happen, and yeah, to make it happen. um, and I think that
But
an
to your point
interest.
right there, you think
Mhm.
about Dr. Martin Luther King, think about Gandhi, like
Mhm.
these people in history that we look at that they were defined by a vision so much so that people said they were nonsense. They were crazy because people couldn't see what they were seeing. It was nonsense because no sense of a human being could experience the future vision they held in their mind. But because the belief that they had for that vision was so strong, that's where Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream came from. Like, he had a vision. Gandhi had a vision. Their circumstances said everything about why that vision should be impossible, why they
Mhm.
should be crazy, why that vision is nonsense. Because with our literal senses as a human being in the current state, we couldn't see that, or they couldn't see that. But the person, Dr. King, Gandhi, they could. So with your point about belief, our brain works the same way. If we see something in our mind, we think about it, we meditate on it, we have a dream, or we experience it in real life, the same mechanisms are turned on in the body, the same chemicals are felt, which are emotions. We know we can create an emotional event just by thought alone. The more we do that, the more we program our brain to think the experience has already occurred, the belief increases. And then just with what you said about Tony Robbins, the probability increases over time if we keep acting in a way which is being defined by what we see in our mind rather than our external circumstances. And I love talking about this because people say, oh, that's got to, it's just easier said than done. Like, it's just theory. Well, I'm going through that right now. I don't know if you know, but I'm facing a second brain surgery in a couple months to remove a new mass that we found 11 years after the first brain tumor. So for me, I could say my circumstances are telling me to be afraid. My circumstances are telling me what I want to do may not happen. My circumstances are telling me I may not live, but that's not what I see in my mind. That's not what I want. And again, it's easier said than done, but every time you can catch yourself with a thought that you would label as undesirable, okay, you're going to see what emotions are being created out of it. Then you're going to see why you're doing the behavior you're participating in the result or the reality you're experiencing around you. It's as simple as going back to the drawing board. What do you want to think? Who do you want to be? What thoughts do you want to have? What thoughts are serving you? Are you focused on the negatives and the current reality? Or are you focused on how you can change that, what you do want, and then therefore you're going to have a new emotional experience? Something as simple as think about, Christmas or a holiday or something you're looking forward to or a gathering or something that you are excited about. And just think about that. Think about that in the past. How did you feel? If you're like a little kid waiting for Christmas and you're up before everyone, like you're all excited to see what presents you got or whatever it is, like you can do that now. You can think about that experience. You can think about, graduating school or getting married or passing a test or winning a game or learning something new or something like that. You get excited. You can relive that. And the more you relive that in your mind, the more you're going to start to see that play out in front of you in your reality.
Have you got a specific routine or a habit with which you practice let's say visualizing something that inspires you, or is it just like thinking and reflecting on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of everything now. I mean, when I first was learning about these concepts years ago, I had like a structured routine. I would, do the journaling and this and that. And then over time of practicing through conscious repetition, I just hardwire that into my thinking to where I catch myself. It may not be right away. It may be an hour later, it may be a minute later, maybe a week later. But the important piece is I catch myself participating in thoughts, emotions, behaviors that are not serving what I want to be creating, or they're not helping me. I apologize. It just started storming outside my window. Like we're
No problem.
Downpouring and it got dark.
Raining too.
But now I've just done so much of that conscious repetition that I've just hardwired that into my belief structure. Anytime I'm feeling any kind of way that's undesirable, I first go and audit. What am I thinking right now? Okay. I'm thinking about this not working out, or I'm thinking about how this could be, detrimental or whatever it may be. Okay, I can see why I'm feeling that way, and I can see why I'm not doing the things that I need to be doing or want to be doing. Okay, well, what do you want? I think if one thing could come from this conversation that could be profound in anyone's life is to catch your thoughts and emotions and behavior, write them down, and then go, what do I want? What outcome do I want from my reality? And then go back to, how can I think differently than now? If your focus is on what you don't enjoy, the pain that you're experiencing, or what you don't have, or why you don't have it, you're going to get more of that. But if you can shift it to, okay, what do I want? What do I want to experience? What do I want to think right now? What do I want to have? What do I want to feel? Okay, how can I make that happen? It's simple, but it takes conscious repetition to make that a habit. That's how any habit's formed. And you can use the same reverse engineering, the same process to break a habit. And that's where James Clear breaks down in Atomic Habits how to form or break habits. But it comes back to being conscious of what you're focusing on, because obviously what you're focusing on is going to inspire or influence how you feel. And that's going to dictate to a degree what you do, which all of that creates what you're experiencing right now.
I think there are two things I would like to say. regarding this topic. And the first one is that I have heard Dean Graciosi talk about an analogy um, for focusing on what you want and not on what you want, on what you do not want. And he says that focusing on what you do not want is like being a driver, and just avoiding obstacles without any like specific direction, and having like a clear idea of what you want is actually being the driver who knows where he's going, and if he has to avoid obstacles or whatever, he avoids them. But like the main point is the direction, not just avoiding stuff and stuff you do not want. And the other thing is that I recently read in Essentialism by Greg McKeown,
Yep.
about how Michael Phelps mentally trained to become. I think it was either to break a world record or to become like the winner of the Olympics in swimming. But that he like daily in the morning and in the night had a routine in which he visualized like the results. Well, not necessarily the results, but like the process of the perfect race of what it would look like. And it also said that when he was training, his coach told him to concentrate on like the visualization that he had when he was not like concentrated. So when he was not focused on improving his swimming style and his performance, his coach told him to remember that visualization. And I think that he won the Olympics, and that was in 2008 or something. But yeah, it actually works. And you have been mentioning also passion, and that you think passion is something important, like also to set a direction. And I was listening to a podcast in which you were being interviewed, and in which you were talking about how in your first experience with cancer, you like still had a vision for being a professional BMX rider. And I would like you to talk about that experience. How was the process after discovering that you had a brain tumor, and also what were like your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so back to your two different stories, it helped in that situation because if you're just trying to avoid things, you have no direction of where you're going.
Hmm.
And if you're not focusing on what you want, you're just trying to avoid things. Now, with focus, we know what we focus on expands at the unconscious level. So if you're just focused on, I don't like X, I don't want X, or you're just focusing on like, I'm sick of being sick, tired, or broke, or whatever it is, your unconscious mind is being programmed for those key words and what they represent to you. And it's putting your unconscious mind at alert to affirm those beliefs that you have about how life isn't fair, how you have to suffer, how you don't get to enjoy the things you do. It must be nice for them, all those things. So it comes back to focus, which is focusing on what you want, which is what I talk about with the vision that we create for our lives. It's important to have a vision. I had a vision at a young age to live this life that I've been able to live and do the things I wanted to do because I was focused on what I wanted. And then that led me to doing the things that I need to do to build the beliefs. And so with visualization, it's there's so many like structured ways you could go about visualizing. And what I've learned is just how I naturally have thought and lived my life, that I'm always visualizing things. Like when we go back to modeling, like the word role model, it comes from modeling someone and being like them. And the simplistic way of saying is like you're trying to model them. You're trying to be an image of them in your own way. But that's, I think, a very important piece is modeling something that you want to do and focusing on what that looks like in your mind. And so with visualization, it can be formally like you just close your eyes and you visualize outcomes and what you want to do, or you're just constantly seeing it every day because your focus is just that. It's what you want. And that's what I've learned that I do on a regular basis. Like whether I'm watching a video or I'm at a conference or I'm, talking with my team or whatever it is, I have this movie playing in my mind of what that looks like. And I've been able to create some of those. I've been able to create more than I ever expected of some of those. And sometimes it doesn't work. That's part of being a human being in life. We can't control outcomes to be exactly what we want. But with probability, that's the key, is to think about, what can increase my probability. So Michael Phelps, he's visualizing that outcome. Conor McGregor, same thing. Tony Robbins, like literally every one of the greatest people in any aspect of human life has these key principles, whether they're aware of it or not. The key, I don't know if you can hear all that, but it's getting crazy outside. But the key to being successful or being one of the top is having a vision that's clear in your mind, and then finding whatever works for you to be reliving that vision every day.